The Huey Cam. Featuring the best of Lamont and Tonelli on 107.7 The Bone.
Lamont and Tonelli, and boy, I said this is a Dirty Friday on steroids, and Sully, I really mean it today because, we have really hit the pinnacle. This morning we have Robert Klein in the studio playing at Cobb's Comedy Club. You know what? You know you've got a great comic in the studio when other comics hang around to meet you.
Oh, that's very nice. But I am concerned. There's a lot of talk about steroids. I'm more concerned with steroids and comedy.
Steroids and comedy?
Yeah. Did you see Carlin, that last HBO? Bulked up, baby. Bulked up.
He looked a little bigger.
No, you think Gilbert Gottfried got that way normally? That's roid rage. It's roid rage.
It's roid rage, isn't it?
Robin Williams, no comment. Okay? The only straight one is Carrot Top because he's gone into politics. He's got to be straight.
Really? Carrot Top's going into politics?
He's a Republican. He's going to explain his religion like Mitt Romney did. But you see, when Jesus comes, wait a minute, toughie. That's a toughie. I think that's appalling. A guy has to explain anything. Great to be here. I'm doing Cobb's because I'm working on HBO special number 9, and when I write the new stuff, I go to the intimate venues. I was in Atlanta last weekend, and Boston the week before, and this week coming home to San Francisco.
Nice. You have a couple of shows tonight at Cobb's Comedy Club on Columbus Avenue, another show at 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Right.
Now, what was the first time you ever performed in San Francisco?
1967, October, at the Hungry Eye.
On Broadway?
Club. On Broadway. Yeah, I never realized
I think
on
it was
Broadway.
on Broadway.
Yes, and then I think it became the Pink Pussycat Cafe. And it was mostly gynecological. But, a lot of things a lot of culture has fallen down on this. Ever since Rocky climbed the steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum, and instead of going inside to see a few paintings, he went, with his arms up, and that was it.
Now,
it's great. It's a wonderful city.
We were talking a bit about the Tonight Show off the air, and I just read something earlier on today before the show. Not only were you a regular guest with Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show, and you still do Leno and Letterman,
right?
But you used to co-host the show every once in a while. Is that right?
Not co-host, substitute host. These boys don't. They're afraid someone's going to be behind them. These guys don't take a day off.
They don't take a day off now.
At a certain point in his career, Johnny was working about 32 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And there would be guest hosts. And I did it probably a couple of dozen times, roughly. He was great, though. He made careers. If you worked hard in preparing your spot, he would be so generous in his laughter, which isn't always true of comedians,
Yeah.
He was great that way. He was, I saw him crashed a few times drunk, which was quite. He used to go to Rodney's Club all the time.
Really? Is that right?
I'll tell you. You cannot walk home. You understand? An argument. His driver was there. He lived at the UN Plaza, about 12 blocks south.
Yeah.
And a one-way street north. And he wanted to walk home, Johnny, and he could barely stand up.
Uh-huh.
He said, I'll tell you, you cannot walk home. He said, shut up, I'll deck you. What do you mean, deck you? What are you, John Wayne? And then he had to drive. He insisted on walking. He had the driver go slowly backwards. Now, this is a story I've never told. Maybe I should shut up.
That's when you know you're drunk, when you get the driver to go backwards down the street.
Well, Rodney had the guy said, keep an eye on him, all right?
Yeah.
And he walked. I guess he needed the fresh air. But he was, I owed so much to him. The other thing is my affiliation with HBO. And I think, I have it here. I have a new collection, perfect stocking stuffer.
Yes, it is.
It will distend the stocking.
The HBO specials. Is this every HBO special you've done?
That's correct. I've done 8 of them. I did the first one they ever did at Haverford College in 1975. And it's called the Robert Klein, the HBO Specials, 1975 to 2005. And you see me go from embryonic to geezer in one little collection.
It's funny. We were looking at the pictures. Whatever happened to your rainbow?
Yeah, the 1975 sweater
that you had.
I got a little reputation for wearing colorful sweaters. It was color TV, after all. I go way back. I thought it was radio. They tricked me. was.
You had the rainbow sweater on.
I used to wear saddle shoes in the early days.
Yeah.
Second one was at NYU. I always did them at colleges. The third one was at Yale, where I went to graduate school. But then I did Broadway, and every one of them I did I Can't Stop My Leg at the end. You know, this last one we did it in Spanish. No puedo parar mi pierna. And we had salsa dances, but usually it's the blues, you know. I can't stop my leg. And if your audience can't see my leg, but it is going, you can attest to that. And that and more at Cobb's Comedy Club.
2 shows tonight, 1 show tomorrow
Still
night.
P.T. Barnum in disguise.
You're not talking about your third leg, are you?
You know, we had Mark Pitta from the Bay Area a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
and he was talking to us about what a big influence you were on him going into comedy. Who were your influences?
Well, the immediate influences, because every comedian I loved, but Lenny Bruce and Jonathan Winters, they split it all open for me. They became a play in themselves. They took stage, they had voices and everything. But I got to say that I never saw them in person. I mean, I developed a friendship with Jonathan, thank goodness. A great man and a genius. Lenny obviously never saw him perform in person. Richard Pryor was the best comedian I ever saw in person.
Is that right?
And I'm opposed to gratuitous profanity. I mean, I think it's, you know, as a substitute for wit, every other word, you know what I mean? But his profanity was authentic because of his background. When I first met him in the Improv, which is in my book, The Amorous Busboy of Decatur Avenue, and the fall of 67 or so, or 66, he was collegiate and cute. He wore little white sweaters. He was on Merv Griffin. He was adorable, and he was hilarious.
Yeah.
He disappeared from the scene for a couple of years. And that 68 when Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy were assassinated.
Yeah.
And he came back a more authentic Richard Pryor because he had a tough upbringing in brothel. His aunt was a madam, you know, among hookers, and it was tough. And this guy, I mean, he had a heart attack. He did such a brilliant bit about it. It was so painfully honest, so hilarious. He was the best I ever saw, and I did see him in person. And I also, happy to say, I had a friendship with him. I'm sorry I didn't see him more towards the end of his life. But he was the best I ever saw.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be more than standing there with cufflinks or sitting on a stool. You take stage, you know. I still like to be like a cat, walking around and making sure everyone hears what I'm saying, you know. If you're not an extrovert on stage as a comedian, you're not using everything you got going for you, your voice, the way you look, everything.
Harmonica.
Harmonica. You know, I do symphony dates, too, and I actually played Beethoven with the San Diego Philharmonic.
Did you really?
About a month ago. First, I introduced him by saying, I'd like to play a song for you now. It's an old song. It's a very old song. And I'd like to do it for you now. Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. But of course, the joke's on them since I can play impeccable Beethoven. It's been a nice, strange trip, but it still goes on. You know, I'm enjoying it. Putting together a new show. I still got the chops. You know, the funny stuff is pouring out of my head, and I'm going to do another show for HBO next year. And they never asked me to change a word.
Is that right?
They never said, oh, well, that's too political, or that's too profane, or that's, you know, which is great. To have that kind of creative control when you're not Steven Spielberg, that's amazing. And that's always been a great relationship.
How much for the DVD? What's it going for?
It's pretty reasonable. I mean, it's as high as $34.95, but I think the Amazon has it for $29 or $32, something like that. I mean, it's 4 DVDs.
Peter's buying it right now.
We got our first customer here, but first you have to ride the pony, little boy.
Robert Klein, who is playing at Cobb's Comedy Club, cobbscomedy.com? .com, is that it? Cobb's Comedy?
Or
is it
.com,
Cobb's Comedy
whatever.
Club?
Yeah, whatever.
.com.
2 shows tonight.
Yeah.
8 o'clock show on Saturday night. the legendary Robert Klein.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you, fellas. I had a really nice time.
Can you lead us out here with your lake song again?
By the way, there's an interview on there with Alan Combs interviewing me just a few months ago. He had that, and he was so happy not to be with Hannity. He did it for nothing, and he kept on looking behind him. Is Hannity here? You should see the scars on this man's ego.
There we go. Robert Klein, 926.
Lamont and Tonelli, weekday mornings 5 to 10 on 107.7 The Bone.